What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the betting show with me, Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And BetUS is offering our listeners an incredible 125% bonus on their deposits for UFC Fight Night, Lemos versus Andrade this weekend. Use the code Sherdog to get an incredible $2,500 in extra money to make Fight Night even better. At BetUS.com, you can not only bet on each fight, but they have loads of awesome parlay bets to choose from too. Bet live during the fights and your winnings are paid within hours. Start the fight at betus.com. Use the code Sherdog. All right, everyone, let's get straight into the bets here. We had a good week last week. My flyer nearly hit again. It was very close. Juliana was, I'm not going to say robbed here or anything. I thought she won. Honestly, and it was what was it, plus 350 or something like that. I have another similarly enough priced one, a little bit higher this week. We had a couple more bets won, so it wasn't a bad week all told. And it's been a good year so far. I think I'm still going for like over 50%, and most of my bets that I give are plus money as well. So I'm sure if someone was adding it up, they would be they would tell me maybe I'm overestimating or underestimating myself. But the list is of wins versus losses is kept on the post on Sherdog.com by the great John Brannigan. So fair play to him. So we can keep an eye on it throughout the year and see how well I'm going in terms of numbers. So. Please bet responsibly before I start as well. There's lots of fights this weekend. Actually, by the time I'm recording this, it's probably a little bit too late for PFL, so I'll leave that. And PFL as well, with the whatever went on with the betting situation a few weeks ago as well. Some books don't have it, some books do have it, so it's one we can kind of leave aside for a while. So I'm going to look at Bellator here. I'm going to look at the UFC, and obviously there's two Bellator cards, one UFC card. Lots of fights to choose from, lots of bets to choose from, and I'll do a little bit of a roundup at the end, and we will have a look through them all and see maybe if there's any additional bets that I think people might be interested in as we go forward here. Right, the first bet I'm going for is Nikita Mikhailov at Bellator 278. And I'm going for him to win just straight up at plus 130. Now, if you don't know, if you've never seen him before, he's actually fighting Enrique Barzola, who's a very, very good fighter. And obviously, Barzola is the favorite. Mikhailov is a little bit of an underdog. And I think I actually gave Barzola in one of my bets before, and I really, really appreciate him as a fighter. I think he's a very, very good fighter. And he could win this fight. It's an even fight, but I like what Mikhailov brings to the table. He came in against my countryman Brian Moore, and he gave a great display for the first couple of rounds. Almost lost it in the third, but then came back and looked dominant in his next fight after that over in the States. And this is his first fight in Bellator, I would say, where he doesn't have and I think it was relatively short notice against Brian. Or it wasn't really, but it was he's your debut. Then the second one after almost getting finished late in that debut, you're probably kind of thinking, have a little bit, maybe a little bit more nerves and stuff. And this is the one where, right, I'm a Bellator fighter. I know I'm a top level Bellator fighter. I've beaten two guys, one guy on the verge of the rankings, and I'm going in here now, and this is kind of the big chance. And I just think he's very, very well-rounded. Now, Barzola is well-rounded as well. It's just, I think maybe he's a little bit stronger in the wrestling. Maybe he's a little bit, he hits a little bit harder, and we know how fights are judged these days. Now, Barzola hits very hard as well, don't get me wrong, and he's a good wrestler, and I think he'll probably have the speed advantage. But I think Mikhailov is the type of guy as well who he will push you against the cage. He will bide his time. He will look for those takedowns where he needs to look for the takedowns. And, he's a good, solid striker as well. I'm interested to see. I don't think it'll come down to this necessarily, but if it does, I'll be interested to see who wins the striking battle, because I think Barzola he's very good all round. As I said, speed, very good jab down through the middle, but I think he's more of maybe a varied and wild is the wrong word, but you get what I mean. Like he throws big shots, whereas Mikhailov is more, I would say, more technical in his approach anyway. And Barzola is a technical fighter as well, but he's I think he throws the jab out there a lot, and he looks for his opponents to kind of bite on shots, and then he'll go for either a shot with a big right hand, or he'll go for a shot with a takedown, and he can make life very, very tough for you. And I think, and I said it might come down to the wrestling, or the striking. I really do think it'll come down to the wrestling now, because if Mikhailov can't take Barzola down, I think it will give a big G up to Barzola. And even if they are relatively even in the striking, I think it will give him a great initiative to kind of up his striking rate, say, all right, you can't take me down, you wanted to take me down. He's growing confidence. On the other hand, I think Mikhailov needs to keep going for that takedown if he can't get it. Now, I do think he will be able to get it. I think he's very, very good, as I said, despite Barzola being good as well. But I just think he might be another level. He's only 9 fights in. You know, he's been tested against a couple of good guys, obviously, in his last 2. Barzola's had, nearly 30 fights at this stage. Well, they're 24, so it's still a lot more, experienced than Mikhailov. But I feel like maybe this is the one where one is, not to say Barzola's gone down or anything like that, but one is kind of rising at a faster level, or maybe one is kind of met his level and is as good as he's ever going to get. And it's a very good level, but I think Mikhailov could be a top fighter, and that's why I think the underdog price here, plus 130, after, it's the type of price that afterwards you might be thinking, how did I miss that? How did I not get Mikhailov at plus 130? And I think, keep an eye later in the week if the betting odds are out to maybe win by decision. I think that'll probably be a good one too. So yeah, first bet, and Nikita Mikhailov even to beat Enrique Barzola at Bellator 278. The second one I'm going for then is on Bellator 279, and I'm going for Raufeon Stots to beat Juan Archuleta. He's minus 240, which is usually not a price I would give, but I really like Raufeon Stots. I really, really like him. I think this guy is a top fighter. The way he handled Magomedov in his last fight, that was a special performance. Now, look, he beat Josh Hill, he beat Keith Lee, he beat Cass Bell, who are on the verge of the rankings, if not ranked, in Bellator. So all good wins. It's not like he came out of nowhere and just beat Magomedov. And in fact, he's had a lot of wins. His only loss was to Merabdashvili back in 2017, and he was caught in the first 15 seconds by a spinning back fist, and that maybe not something you'd associate with a wrestler like Merabdashvili. But anyway, I think that Magomedov fight, everyone knows how good Magomedov is. He's beat Peter Yan, and obviously they fought Peter Yan again with 10 full rounds with him, if I'm not mistaken. If you can go in there and if you can out-wrestle that guy, which he did, you can out-wrestle anyone on the planet nearly at that weight class. It's just one of those wins that, you can't underestimate how unbelievable that win is. That is one of those ones where I think a lot of people who maybe don't know Magomedov would say, look, he beat this guy, and he's only a couple of Bellator fights in and all that. But if you've gone back and watched those fights, watch the level he's been fighting at before Bellator, I think you probably know how good he is. Now, having said that, Archuleta is a very, very good fighter as well. He's a lot of wins, 11 knockout wins, 1 submission, and 13 decisions. So he's a guy who goes long. He's only lost once inside the distance in 28 fights, and he's only lost 3 times altogether. Obviously, so 2 by decision, one of which was to Sergio Pettis, and the other was to Patricio Pitbull. So he's not losing to any mugs in there. He's absolutely not losing to any mugs, and his submission losses back in 2015 when he was only 5 or 6 fights in over in World Series of Fighting, so you can nearly write that off. I think, and look at the wins, Eduardo Dantas, Henry Corrales, Pachi Mix, Ricky Bandejas. Those are tremendous wins and very, very good wins. So this is a top fight, and it's 5 rounds as well, and it's for the interim title. Something you'd nearly forget. I know, everyone has maybe criticised Bellator's promotion over the last few weeks, especially with the double card, or the double title card that they did a couple of weeks ago. And I think here we go again almost. They've 2 cards in Hawaii, title fights all over the place, unbelievable fights all over the place. We hardly heard about it. Like I've done, they'll probably be out by the time this comes out, but 2 previews for both of these cards. And I was waxing lyrical about it. I'm trying to promote them more than they're trying to promote them, honestly, because these cards are very good and there's some very, very good fighters on it. But alas, this is the betting show, and we will we'll talk about betting. But I like Stots. I think, like, honestly, I he was my favorite after that Magomedov fight. Why can't I say that name today? To win the tournament, and I still think that, look, especially with Sergio out, like Sergio's his teammate as well, so I'd be interested. I think they have said if it's for a world title we'll fight, but that's an interesting dynamic if that ever does happen. But he needs to forget about that for a while, because Stots is a real test for him here, and we'll see if he can get past that test. But I think he can. I think his wrestling's too strong. I think he's a very good striker as well. He can fight all around, and I think a minus 240. It's not the biggest price in the world, okay, and I don't like giving out prices like this, honestly, because this is not that sort of betting show. But I think he'll win, and I think that'll look a good price afterwards. I'm going for that. Right, I might as well stick with Bellator. I have a third Bellator bet, and then I have 2 UFC bets. And I'm going for Juliana Velasquez to win in the title fight here at Bellator 278 against Liz Carmouche, and she is minus 200. Now, this price has actually changed. It was like minus 185, I believe. Last night it's kind of gone into minus 200, but I've stuck with it. Because it could change again when as the week goes or something like that. The prices change as they get closer to the fight. But look, I think it's a good price on her. I think she will beat Liz Carmouche. And look, watching some of her fights this week, preparing for obviously this podcast and other podcasts and the preview show and things. You'd almost forget sometimes, because there's so many fights around and so many different title fights and so many different divisions and everything. Sometimes you kind of forget how good fighters are. And Juliana Velasquez is one of those that I go back and I watch her fights and I'm thinking, Jesus, this lady should be a star. Like, honestly, and it's a star in terms of how good she is all around. Like, maybe she's not going out there knocking people out or submitting them every fight or every 2 seconds, but she's so technically good. She's maybe not a finishing style all the time. As I just turn on my heater here, lad. Sorry, it's freezing. We're in Ireland in the middle of summer, we're frozen. But her I think her all-round style is very good. Like, she's very much a counter-puncher, light on the feet on the outside. Just so technically good, I think, and very good defensively as well. I love a good defensive fighter. Having said that, her fight against Keelholz maybe it wasn't the best defensive fight in the world, but it was a beautiful technical fight. I remember watching that live and thinking, this is one of the fights of the year that maybe no one will call a fight of the year, but it was really, really good. And obviously beating Alima McFarlane the way she beat her was tremendous as well. And look, this is a different sort of test against Liz Carmouche. Could you argue Liz Carmouche is the highest level of any person she's fought, especially at this level in Bellator? You could argue that. I don't know if it'd be right or not, but you could argue it, because Liz will bring either bring something good or something bad out in her, because I talked there about that countering game and her ability to defend. Like, Liz Carmouche will either bring out that countering game or she will expose it, because she will come forward and she will go at Velasquez and she will bring that pace. I really believe that. I don't think Liz Carmouche is the type of woman who'll stand there and kind of wait. Look, she did it to Ronda Rousey, so she'll do it to Velasquez, I'm sure, and she'll try to do it anyway. Now, will it be enough? I don't think so. I think Velasquez, she'll be too fast. She hits hard. She's very good cardio, but so does Carmouche. Like, I think for the first 2 rounds especially, I think it's going to be a very good fight. I think Carmouche is going to bring it, and I think Velasquez reacts well to people who bring it. I think her style is designed to fight fighters like Liz Carmouche, and that's the reason I'm going for her, really, because it's almost as if it's a tailor-made matchup for her against someone who's pretty good. But as I said, it's all good having a tailor-made matchup. It's all good having a style until it's tested. And we'll see. Like, there's no doubt about it. That style will be tested this weekend. Will it pass the test? Won't it pass the test? We will see. We will very much see. And if it does, if it does, I think she's going to look really, really good. Honestly, I think she's going to look tremendous if she can pass this test, because it's a fight where everyone knows Carmouche, right? Everyone knows what Carmouche can bring. Everyone has known that since Carmouche has gone to Bellator, she's looked good and she's had a resurgence in her career and everything like that. And we know how good Liam McFarlane is. We know how good Denise Keelos is, but maybe not. We don't know it as well as Carmouche. So that's sort of win. We always talk about it in up-and-coming fighters, the kind of the UFC test, and that's obviously different in Bellator, but this is a known entity, a known fighter, and if she beats her very, very well, which I think she could, I think it'll look very, very good for her. Right. So for my next bet, I've had to add a little bit of a change here. I don't know, am I wearing the same t-shirt or that? But I was going for the Manel Cape fight. That fight has actually been pulled just as the video was about to go up. So big shout out to my guy, John Branding. And he said to me, let's go for a different bet. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in here. And do you know what? During the betting show, you actually might hear it after this, I talked myself into a bet. I'm going for Amanda Lemos to win this fight. I'm going for her. She's plus 175. I'm going for her to beat Jessica Andrade. And, it's one of those fights where I kind of haven't thought about it a little bit more. If I was betting straight up, I from the whole week, even maybe during this betting show when I recorded it the first time, I was thinking Andrade. But having recorded it, talked through it, and watched even another little bit, I just think Lemos at plus 175 is a very good bet. I honestly, what I think she kind of might be, and maybe I'm going overboard. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself in this bet. But I think she's kind of maybe the next level of a fighter like Andrade, in terms of she's a little bit more refined, but she still has that power. She still has the level of wildness you need to be a very, very, very good fighter in mixed martial arts. Now, we must remember as well, this is the main event. This is 5 rounds. And for Andrade to keep up her pace the way she fights for 5 rounds while still being effective, while not maybe dropping the pace, to fight a more refined 5-round fight, actually I think might not make her as good a fighter. Now, we've seen in the past before, she just doesn't bother with that. She goes straight out, she drops you on your head, knocks you out. So maybe that will happen as well. But I feel like Lemos is a very good counter striker at times. She's a very, very powerful striker, as I mentioned before. But I think as a technical fighter, she's a little bit better than Andrade. I honestly do. And now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm, as I said again, maybe I'm talking myself into it. But I like that price, plus 175. I also think her style of power striking is better for a longer fight, better for a 5-round fight than Andrade's is. And if they both fight a more refined, I'll use that phrase again, 5-round fight, I think the way that Lemos fights can be more close to the way she normally fights than the way Andrade normally fights. The way she fights to the way the 5-round Andrade will maybe have to fight if she can't get the early finish, or if she doesn't just go for it. If she does just go for it and she doesn't get the finish, because I think Lemos is good defensively as well. If she doesn't get that finish, I think Lemos will still be there and will still be powerful as the fight goes. And now, look, am I talking myself into this a little bit? Maybe I am, but I do like that price. The more I looked at it, the more I liked it. Plus 175, I think it's a very, very good bet for Lemos. Like this as well, it could be a little bit of the turning of the tide here. We could be seeing maybe not necessarily the end of Jessica Andrade, but the start of Lemos being that person who's going to be the next contender. Because if she wins it, I think she will be. Or very close to it anyway. And I think she's good enough. I really, really appreciate her ability. And if we are to look at technique and the evolution of the sport being a real thing, then I think Lemos beating Andrade is something that I must pick. I must pick it for the evolution of the sport. So if I'm wrong, the sport hasn't evolved, and we're rubbish. So no, plus 175. I'm going for Lemos to win against Jessica Andrade. Right, I might as well move on because we've loads of other bets to talk about. We might as well rush through it a little bit here. The flyer of the week. I've gone back and forth in this one. I had a couple of different bets. I had one flyer that wasn't maybe the biggest flyer in the world, but I've gone for one here, and I went back and I looked at a couple of these fights and I looked at his record, and I'm not sure about it, honestly. So please take this one with a pinch of salt. But I'm going for Tyson Pedro against Villanueva. I'm going for him to win via round 1 TKO, KO, or disqualification over at BetUS.com, and that's plus 500. Plus 500. Now, you look at Tyson Pedro, and I when I think of Tyson Pedro, and he hasn't fought in a good while, but I think of him, and what I think is knockout artists. You know, he's going to land these big shots, he's going to hurt someone badly, he's going to knock him out. He's only 2 knockouts in his career. He's 5 submissions, which is, and now, I haven't looked at that as well. Maybe I should have given the submission bet, but that was a lower bet. I'm going, this is the flyer. Everyone knows the rules of the flyer. It's a mad bet. It's a big bet. It's one that you think might happen. You know, there's a little inkling. My little inkling is that he'll hit Villanueva very hard and he'll finish him. Look, the big issue is he hasn't fought since 2018. He hasn't fought since 2018. How is he going to look? You know, is he going to? Some fighters come back and they look better, and some fighters come back and they look absolutely as rusty as they can. And maybe, you know, given the first round knockout bet, it's probably not the best idea. But look I'm going for it. I think he'll have a lot of pent up aggression. I think Villanueva is dared to hit. You know, he's not exactly indestructible. He's no Ryan Elson or anything like that. And I think if he gets hit, especially by a guy like Tyson Pedro, I think he could go out. Like, Pedro has knocked out Paul Craig, who's one of the best light heavyweights in the world right now. So if he can knock him out, I think he can knock Villanueva out. Now, for Ike, it's go in there and test that 4 years out of the cage. Go in there and put it on him early. Now, that might actually lead to Tyson Pedro getting a knockout, which is another maybe kind of part of my thinking there. So, I think Pedro will win this fight. I think he's a higher class than his opponent, Ike Villanueva. And I just think that pent up aggression, he'll come out early, he'll come out swinging, and he'll catch him. Plus 500, first round KO. Yeah, let's do it. I think that'll be a good one. Right. Let's look at a little bit of a roundup here. The bets are all over us because there's so many cards this weekend. There's everything. BetUS.com. They have they have betting all over the place. And if you're planning to bet on UFC Fight Night, Lemos versus Andrade, it's going to be more fun when you bet at BetUS.com. Use the code Sherdog and get an incredible 125% bonus up to $2,500. Andrade is the favorite at the moment, which we'll get to in a second. So get in now or even choose to bet to win via KO, TKO to increase your winnings. At BetUS.com, you can make the fights even more fun by betting throughout the fights. Start the fight at BetUS.com. Use that code Sherdog. Right, I nearly forgot to do my read there. But anyway, let's get into it, and let's look at some of the bets for this weekend. I'll go to Bellator first because I want to talk a good bit about Lemos versus Andrade. Bellator 278, Liz Carmouche. She is. Actually, if Juliana Velasquez, I look at it here again now, she's down to minus 170. So that's gone up and down in the last day. So minus 170, my bet from earlier on, you couldn't change that around. It's minus 170 now. That's even better. I think that's a great price. Carmouche plus 140. Look, if you fancy her, the over is plus 190, is 4.5 rounds. So yeah, my guy Jed Goodman over in Twitter will be betting that, I'm sure, and that's a good money bet. Honestly, it's a very good money bet. I think this will go along. I do think it'll go to the decision. So plus 190 is a good bet for that. Looking down the card, Barzola minus 160 over Mikhailov, plus 130. Jernel Lugo. This was a flyer bet I was looking at. He's plus 220 over Danny Sabatello. Now, I went to watch a few Sabatello fights last night. He's, I think they said he was a Division 1 All-American, a very good wrestler either way. He's plus 300. But Jernel Lugo, he was his last fight, wasn't it? Against Brian Moore in Dublin. I was watching him up close. And I was so impressed. Like, there's some fighters you watch and some fights you watch, and this was one of them, I think, Moore and Lugo, they're kind of a different level to maybe everyone else on the card or everyone else that's already been on the card. And I really like him. I think he's a very, very good fighter. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if he won here at plus 220. But that wrestling is going to be tough to get past of Sabatello. It's one, maybe it's one best watched, as they would say in the horse racing world. But I wouldn't be averse. I wouldn't be averse to plus 220. I think that's a great price on Jernel Lugo. Christian Edwards plus 130 against Grant Neal minus 160. Muro is plus 245 against Andrews minus 325. CJ Hamilton plus 230. Eric Perez minus 310. A big fight for Perez coming back again. We'll see if he can do that one. Weber Almeida is a big favourite, minus 360. Over plus 260, Fabricio Franco. Blake Perry is plus 500, minus 800 is Cooper. Scotty Howe plus 400 over Dante Shiro, minus 600. Then Bellator 279. Let's talk a little bit about this. Arlene Blinko is plus 550 over the legend Christina Cyborg. Justino at minus 900. The over-under is 1.5 rounds there. If you fancy under that, it's minus 135. Fancy the over, it's plus 105. The last fight went over it, I believe. I watched it the other day. Like, Blinko did okay in that first fight in terms of offense. She was landing a few jabs, landing a few 1-2s down the middle. But defensively, she just couldn't live with Cyborg. Cyborg was just kicking the legs off her, kicking the body, eating her up with shots. And eventually she ended up falling. Maybe the over is the bet. No, I can't give. No, it's not the bet. There's no bet there, honestly. Maybe the prop isn't up for it here yet, but maybe Cyborg round 1 KO would be the bet, or maybe round 2 KO if you're feeling a bit of a bigger price, which it might be. I think that'd probably be the one to go. Raufeon Stots, who I gave earlier, is minus 240, plus 190 for Juan Archuleta. I talked a good bit about that. What a fight this is. Patchy Mix versus Kyoji Haraguchi. Haraguchi minus 300, Patchy Mix plus 220. This is the fight that Bellator should really be talking about. This is a 5-rounder as well. The over-under is at 4.5 rounds. I would go for the under there. It's minus 105. I think that's a good price on the under. I think someone will catch something here. Like Haraguchi, it's not too long since Sergio Pettis knocked him for 6. Obviously, Patchy had the great win after missing weight against James Gallagher. I think Haraguchi will win. But Patchy Mix is a good fighter, and I think that'll be a very, very good fight. So looking forward to seeing where that goes. And Lima McFarlane, big fight for her, minus 300. If she wins it, she'll probably get the title. Justine Quiche is plus 220. Nyan Dung is plus 600 over Lance Gibson Jr., minus 1,000. So we know what's going to happen in that one. There's probably going to be a lot of wrestling and a lot of winning there. The closest fight in the card, I believe, minus 110, Justin Gonzalez against Kai Kamaka III, minus 120. Very close one. I like this fight. Levan Cocelli against Yaiti Yamauchi. Yamauchi's the favourite at minus 200, minus 200, plus 160 for Cocelli. I like him. I think he's a good fighter, but I like Yamauchi as well. More about that over in the preview show, because if I went through all these fights, I'd be here all night. But Yancy Medeiros plus 245, Emmanuel Sanchez minus 325. I think that's about right. I think Sanchez will be favourite there. I just think Medeiros hasn't fought enough over the last few years. Bobby King plus 180, minus 230 for Kanoni Diggs. Miller is plus 180. Randy Field is minus 230. Dinah Silva, this was a bet I was thinking of giving, plus 110. The bet I was thinking of giving now was Janae Harding, who was minus 135. I think Janae is better than her record suggests, and I think she'll win that one there. The over is plus 170 at 2.5 rounds as well. That's a good bet. Jordan Winsky is minus 350 against Ryan De La Cruz. Like, I think it was Brian Moore that Jordan Winsky fought, and I wasn't that impressed in him, honestly. The plus 250 there, I don't know if this is a short notice fight or if I just didn't see it or whatever, but I haven't had a chance to look up Ryan De La Cruz, but sight unseen, I would go for him to win that fight, plus 250. Whitney Piles, plus 350, minus 500 for Inaba. And that's that from Bellator. Let's talk a little bit about the UFC. Amanda Lemos versus Jessica Andrade. God almighty, this is going to be an absolute barn burner, a barnstormer, whatever you want to call it. Both hit so hard. Andrade is more of like a forward-going hooker, I like to call her. Lemos she's more of a counter striker, but like an offensive counter striker. I always say we saw Andre Filo last weekend kind of fighting in that way. Lemos is the underdog, plus 155, minus 190 for Andrade. There's some props up for that as well. If you fancy Lemos to win inside the distance, it's plus 240. If you fancy her to win by decision, it's plus 650. For Andrade, plus 135 inside the distance, plus 275 by decision. That's a very interesting one. If you fancy the KO for Lemos, it's plus 400. The KO for Andrade is plus 225. I think someone's getting KO'd here. I'll be honest. I think someone is getting KO'd. I think one of those bets is good. I like Lemos. I think there might be a bit of a shock here. I think it's not one of my official bets, but I would think if I was picking a bet here, I think I'd go for the underdog. I think that plus 155 bet is very good, and I think it'll be an interesting one, and I can't wait for this fight. It's a very much a clash of styles, and we'll see if Lemos has really never been put in a position. I don't think. She hasn't. Against someone with the class of Andrade, the ability of Andrade, that will push her back and be able to land the power on her that someone like Andrade can. And that's going to be very, very difficult to deal with. But if she can deal with it, she will win this fight. You know, she has the power, she has the ability. She one big issue with Lemos, she always puts herself in submissions. She knocks someone down and then she throws a leg in there and almost gets the leg taken off her. But she's survived every time so far. If she can do that again, I'm going for Lemos. The rest of the card, not amazing, I won't lie to you. Clay Guida is minus 115, as his opponent, Claude Puelos. Landa Venata, Charles Jourdain. They're both even as well, minus 115. I like Jourdain in this fight, honestly. If you're betting on Venata, betting him to get a KO. Because if you're betting on him, inside the distance, Venata is plus 350. I don't know, I just wouldn't bet on him straight up, because Venata is the type of guy who doesn't win straight up fights like that. I don't know, but that's one I'm honestly, I don't see it. I don't see how it's so even. I think Jourdain should be a relatively big favourite in that. Now, maybe there's something I'm missing, but he beat Andrew last time out. Okay, he lost to Juliana Rosa, but he beat Marcus Roja before that. I know Venata has had a bit of a kind of a comeback in his career, but I like Jourdain there, honestly, and I think Jourdain will get it done. Montana De La Rosa is a plus 155 underdog against Macy Barber, minus 190. I think that's just about right. I think Barber should be favourite there, right? Minus 180, as I mentioned, with Manel Cape. Well, I have gone for him to win inside the distance, but to win straight up, minus 180, Suma Dajari, plus 150. Dwight Grant, minus 105, minus 125 for Sergey Candozo. Ike Villanueva is a plus 400, minus 600 for Tyson Pedro. So that's one of my flyers for the first round KO there. Cameron Else, England's own, a big fight for him here to maybe save his UFC career. Plus 190 against Auri Kiliang, who's minus 240. Philip Lenz and Marcin Pacino are pretty much the same. Lenz is minus 105, minus 125 for Pacino. And then Ireland's own Dean Barry, he's a massive minus 1500 favourite over the 750 in the plus money. Mike Jackson, I think that's about right. Dean is a very good striking background. We'll see. There'll be bigger tests for Dean after this in terms of if he gets matched up against a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu guy or something like that. But Mike is a striker predominantly, and I think Dean is probably a better striker. So when the props come out, look for the KO for that one. I think Dean will probably get the KO on that. And last fight, Mark Andre Barrio is minus 180 against Jordan Wright, plus 150. All right, lots to unpack there. There's so many fights this weekend. And I'll ask you, who will you be betting on all the fights this weekend? And especially at UFC Fight Night, Lemos versus Andrade. Can Lemos beat the odds and defeat Andrade, or will the former champ win by TKO or KO? Get your bets on this weekend at BetUS.com. Use the code Sherdog and get 125% bonus. BetUS.com has been taking bets for well over 25 years, and there's a reason. It's the #1 UFC sportsbook with more betting options, live betting and games. BetUS.com is your new home for UFC betting. Start the fight at BetUS.com. Use that code Sherdog. All right, everyone, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Please hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and check out everything over on Sherdog.com. My name is Sheehan, and I'll see you all next time.